Now that you're an expert bunker player, we're moving on to greenside shots, specifically chips and pitches. I have a variety of clubs with me here. I have an 8, 9, and pitching wedge, as well as two lofted wedges, a 54 degree and a 60 degree. You can purchase any number of different utility clubs or lofted wedges to use around the greens, and the club that you select is largely a matter of personal preference. I normally choose my club based on the lie of the ball. In other words, how the ball is sitting in the grass dictates what club I will use for a particular shot. My rule of thumb is that I like to see the ball on the ground and rolling as quickly as possible. Therefore, I try to use my 8, 9, and pitching wedge whenever possible. When the situation calls for me to loft the ball into the air and hit it from point A to point B, then I go to my lofted wedges and perform more of a pitch than a chip. For a chip shot, I like to take a narrow stance with my feet fairly close together, and I position the ball closer to my back foot, in this case my right foot, with my hands forward. So the handle of the club, or the grip end of the club, is closer to the target than the head. And I want to keep that shaft leaning forward throughout the shot. When my feet are fairly close together, they're turned slightly open to the target line, and I have them positioned so that the ball is closer to my back foot than my front foot. Okay, so here my ball is positioned in some fairly short grass, cut to fairway height. So I have no difficulty in making clean contact, so I'm going to use a less lofted club. In this case, I'm going to use an 8 iron and get the ball rolling as quickly as possible. Okay. This time I find my golf ball in a little bit more difficult situation. It's in the thick grass that's surrounding the green, also known as the rough. And the rough can be pretty difficult in the springtime in this area. So instead of using an 8 iron, I've chosen a 54 degree wedge, which has more loft and a much heavier club head. The heavier club head combined with more loft will enable the club to slice through the grass, get the ball up on the green and running without going too far. As far as the ball position and the shaft angle is concerned, I'm going to try to maintain the same relationship that I did with the chip shot using an 8 iron. So the ball is back, my hands are forward, and I'm not trying to lift the ball at all. I'm actually trying to hit down on the ball, which propels it forward with a little bit of overspin. Now my ball is still in the thick rough, but it's about 5 steps off the green, and it's forcing me to hit a more lofted shot because I have to carry the ball about halfway to the target due to the rough. So I've chosen my most lofted club. In this case, I like to use a 60 degree wedge, which is also called a lob wedge. And that will hit the ball higher than any other club in my bag as far as the trajectory is concerned. So in this case, I'm going to adjust my stance a little bit and put the ball a little bit closer to the center of my stance. And I'm going to make a longer swing. This is more like pitching a ball underhanded. So you can see it's a totally different motion than the little chip shot that I just showed you. So it's a longer swing, more lofted, kind of similar to a sand shot, except for I'm going to hit the ball itself. So the ball's in the middle of my stance, and the shaft is not pressed quite as far forward as it was for the chip shots. Okay? So for a pitch shot, the ball is positioned just in the center of my stance, equidistant between both feet, and the shaft angle of my lob wedge is neutral, not leaned too far forward, maybe just slightly forward, but not pressed as far forward as it was for a chip shot. Then I'm just going to make a nice, smooth pitching motion. So you can see the ball flew most of the way to the hole and did not roll very far once it landed.